to actually remember to record, so that's exciting. Welcome everybody to today's overview of the lending models that OverDrive offers us. We started doing this training because I think maybe a year and a half ago at this point, Buckles opened up some additional lending models other than the traditional one copy, one user and metered access. And so today we're going to go over what those lending models are and how they work. I am going to share my screen. I apologize for not showing my video, but my computer has decided that every time I tried to share my video, it crashes it. So we're going to try to make our way through. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And like I said, I do have slides that will be sent out that have sort of a refresher to this. So like, don't be afraid if you're like, oh no, she went too fast. And like Darlene said, if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. And I'll stop periodically and ask for questions. So this is the OverDrive Marketplace. This is where those of you that do shopping for your collections in OverDrive will be familiar with. This is the home screen. I am logged in to the Glenridge screen, so you're going to be seeing our content. The various lending models you can see are over here on the left under the shop option, and the default is one copy, one user and metered access. So one copy, one user is the standard library of the model. One person takes a book out and other people have to wait for that copy to come back before they can have it. So that means one user can have that one copy out at the one time. Metered access is a similar model, but that copy is only available for a certain period of time or a certain number of checkouts. OverDrive tends to do 26 or 52 checkouts, or 1 year, 12 months, or 24 months. Those are the most common ones. And soapbox number one of the day is that they have started something that they call the Max Pass, or it's the 100 copies that you can borrow, and it's all at one time. So if you had 100 people on hold, they could all check that out at one time. That is a shared format. So when you buy 100 checkouts, you are buying those 100 checkouts for everybody in the consortium. You are not just buying them for your library. So the one copy, one user, metered access, and the 100 checkout max pass, those are all shared across the consortium. So if you as an Advantage library buy that, when your patrons aren't using it, the rest of the system has access. So if you own a copy of a title and your patron puts it at hold, they get bumped to the top of your list for that copy. If nobody from your library is on hold for that title, it gets put out to the rest of the libraries to fill their holds or for other patrons to check out. And then if your patron puts that title on hold again, they go to number one on the list, so that when it comes back, your list would start again and they would get to be number one. So I know lots of times people have concerns that they're buying content that won't be available for their patrons, but in this instance, your patrons get priority on the content that you purchase. Any one copy, one user or metered access questions? You can see this. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I don't see any questions in the question box.
So you can see this when you click on a title, the options that you have available for purchase for one copy, one user and metered access will be here underneath the title and the author. You'll see the different options. So if there was a one copy, one user, you would see the OC/OU and the price. Here we have earlier at 52 checkouts or 24 months. And this one's on sale. Yay. Very exciting. And so this is the one copy, one user metered access. The next option we have is cost per circ, or CPC. So if I say CPC, what I mean is cost per circ. This is similar to the Hoopla model, if anybody's familiar with that, where you pay per checkout. So when a patron checks a title out, you get charged whatever that title's cost is. And you can see just here in the ebook bestsellers, these range in price from $1.69 to $5.50 per checkout. Most of your bestsellers are going to be about $5.50 for ebook and about $9.50 for audiobook, but there is a wide range. Some things will be $1.69, some things will be $13.49, which is a thing that Macmillan is doing. So be aware of your costs when you are looking at this. You pick what titles you want to make available to your patrons and cost per circ. So this is a really good way to manage titles for book clubs. So if you have a book club that wants to all read the women at the same time, if the women is available as cost per circ, you could open it up. You can open it up for a certain period of time, and then everybody could check it out at the same time, and then you would just pay for those individual checkouts. It's good to manage holds. Most people that use cost per circ use it to manage holds. If you have a unique or individual title you want to add, we also use it for summer reading, so we can make titles available all at once as opposed to having to deal with high holds lists. Um, and it's also good if there's one patron that really wants to read some random book that you have no interest in spending $50 on, but you're willing to spend $5.50 to get them through and make them happy. That is a very good use of cost per circ as well. So when you're in cost per circ, so you'll see over here in shop cost per circ, we have manage CPC budgets. Now this is something that just changed. OverDrive changed the way that they did this in the past few weeks. Previously, you made a budget for your ebooks, and then you made a separate budget for your audiobooks. Now you can make however many budgets you want, and whatever content can go on that. So you'll see right here, I have my December 2024 CPC. I currently have 12 titles. I have a monthly budget of $500, and I have 385 of those dollars left to spend in December. On the 3rd. And then you'll see I also created a January budget because I like to be ahead. You can create budgets for whatever you want. So if you wanted to have a budget just for one title, you would be able to do that. So if you knew you had sort of a bestseller, but you didn't want to run through your whole monthly budget for that one title, you could create a budget of say $30 and put, you know, the new Fourth Wing book in there and say, I only want to spend $40 in this title. The downside is you will get a bunch of invoices. So each budget at the end of the month, you will get an invoice for. So if you have a ton of budgets, you're going to get a ton of invoices. If that's not a problem for you, great. But that is how they have sort of gotten around some of the issues with getting multiple invoices for different formats or allowing people more granular control of how much money is spent on a particular title. You can also set dates to revoke the item or revoke it manually. So we're going to look at our budget. And then this will show us what has been added to that budget. How many holds we have. So I use our cost per circ, except for summer reading, predominantly for holds management. So I'm going to look at blood test. And you will see this costs $5.50 to check out. I have one hold, but it's been suspended. And if I wanted to make this available as cost per circ, I simply click on the little arrow and then I pick the budget that I want to add it to. In this case, it would be December because that's the month we're in. And then if you go to add it, you can see it will tell you to manually revoke it so that you can go in and remove that item from your cost per circ offerings whenever you want to. Or you can schedule when to revoke it. So you can tell it a date. So if you want, I generally do this and set mine to the end of the month so that my budgets don't overlap. But you can do that however you want. But if you had a book club and everybody was supposed to read the book by the 17th, so you could set this date to the 17th and then it would revoke on that day. You wouldn't have to worry about remembering to go back in. So this is good because it automates the process a little bit. Or you can manually revoke if you're like me and you're a little too hands-on with the management of your e-content. You can go in and revoke your cost per circ whenever you want. Then you would simply say confirm, and they will give you a notice telling you that it will be available within the next 24 hours. It's usually much, much faster than that. But that is the warning that they give you. I will say I do have 2 saved searches. Saving searches is something that I highly suggest you do if you do a lot of e-content or you're looking for the same things over and over again. So if you want to know what you have in your collection, if you want to know what your top holds are, whatever it might be, if you have, what's the new Nora Roberts or whatever, you can do that in the advanced search. There's a save search option. We go over this in some of the other training sessions, and OverDrive has a bunch of help about how to do it. But I would recommend, if you're going to do a lot of cost per circ, I like having in collection and on hold saved. So I can just go in, click on this, and it will tell me what's in my list right now. And then I can decide if I want to revoke anything. So this is what I currently have available. You can see I have a tree grows in Brooklyn. I'm not really sure why I have 3 holds on a tree grows in Brooklyn right now. My guess is there's a school project. Um, but I have these, you'll see I have them all set to revoke on 12/31. But if I wanted to revoke something earlier, I'm just gonna see if somebody's checked their book out and I can remove it. Nope. I would just click on revoke and then it will say revoke now, or you can schedule when to revoke it. I'm going to cancel it because I want to keep it since my patron still has it on hold. Any questions about cost per circ?
Tina Marie,
Yes.
it's Darlene. Can I ask a question? And I do apologize if you covered it. My sound was a little fuzzy.
Sure.
When would you revoke a title?
So for me, I revoke it when my holds have been filled. So if all of my 3 people who have a tree grows in Brooklyn have either checked it out or suspended their hold, then I would revoke it because I don't need to make it available at cost per circ at that point. Because again, for me, I use this as holds management. You would also revoke it if you were done, anytime you're done making that available as cost per circ. So if your book club is over, if summer reading is
Mhm.
over, whatever you're doing, why you decided to have it as cost per circ is finished, then you can just revoke it. And it's still available, like if there are other copies available in the system or you own a metered access or one copy, one user, it doesn't affect that. It just means you're not making it available in the cost per circ format anymore, and you won't be charged if that title gets checked out.
Okay, and then if for some reason things change and you needed it, you could always set it back up again, right?
You just add it again.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. If you are not an Advantage user, you can get all of this set up with OverDrive. I'll give you their information at the end. Um, I would say a decent number of the Advantage libraries are starting to get into cost per circ, but I think it's probably only about half at this point. Oh, Jane, did you have a question? I see your little hand.
Hi. When you say you're revoking a title, if somebody has it checked out, are they still able to read it until their return date?
Yes, you're only
Okay.
affecting the ability for new people to check it out.
Okay.
Once somebody has checked it out, you revoking it or not has no effect on them.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and Tina Marie,
Yes.
since you mentioned Advantage Plus, can you just briefly talk about that?
So
What?
advantage is when the individual libraries, it's what your account is called. When you have the ability to purchase for your library, you are an Advantage library. Um, Advantage Plus is the sharing side. So every library in Buckles, because of how Buckles set up and the agreements that we have, if you are an Advantage library, you are participating in Advantage Plus, which means all of your one copy, one user metered access content is shared across the consortium. Your cost per circ titles are not shared. Those are only for your patrons. So you don't have to worry that you're paying for checkouts for Glen Ridge or Hackensack or whoever. When you have cost per circ titles, you are only paying for the checkouts by your particular library's patrons.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Our next lending model is simultaneous use. So simultaneous use is what it sounds like. It allows for an unlimited number of patrons to have the same item checked out at the same time. So similar to cost per circ, and 20 people can have the same title checked out. But with sim use, you have paid upfront for a certain number of titles for a certain period of time, generally a year. And you know how much you're paying upfront as opposed to cost per circ. It varies based on the title and how many copies get checked out. With sim use, you're basically buying a package. Canopy is doing this as well, where you can buy one of their pack plus packs. But it is a set number of titles in a particular format, usually that your patrons will always have access to. The best example of this is the magazines that everybody has access to in the consortium. But in this instance, if you were to buy a simultaneous use package, those titles would only be available for your patrons. So if you bought All Access or Romance, if I were to buy that, that would only be available to the Glenridge patrons. This is one of the reasons why we recommend that when people go to the website or they're using the Libby app, that they're logged in, because they will see their library's offerings. And there's all different options. You can have as many of these or as few of these as you want. I do not have any simultaneous use packages currently. If you have any questions about simultaneous use, you can reach out to Nick, who is the OverDrive rep for us. I'll give you his contact information at the end, and it will be in the slides as well. And you can see there's a ton of different ebook, then you have audiobook. Canopy is included in the audiobook, which is interesting. Canopy is video, television shows, and things like that. So this is where you would have, if you wanted to have sort of a core collection, or if your patrons are complaining that there's never an audiobook for them to check out, this is a way to get around that with your simultaneous use packages. It's also good if you were to have a large scale reading program or project, or if you were doing sort of an all town item. The other thing with that is if you were ever doing something, a special project, or if you're doing like a townwide reading project, OverDrive can work with you with the publisher to make arrangements for a single title. So instead of having to buy, say you wanted to do an audiobook listen with a Tantor title, instead of spending $500 for the 25 titles, you could possibly work with OverDrive, who would work with Tantor, to like make arrangements for one title. That is case specific, but it is something that has been done in the past. So generally, I always say if you err on the side of asking, always ask Nick, because you don't get what you don't ask for. And you might get a better price, or you might get some more options than you were aware of, because they have some more things that they can do on the back end than are visible to us sometimes. Any simultaneous use questions? And magazines are, of course, the other lending model. Again, it's part of the simultaneous use. It's provided by the consortium. You do not have to do anything to have magazines. They magically appear for your patrons. Currently, there are 5,725 magazines available in a wide variety of languages. So this is somewhere that I usually recommend if I have patrons who are asking me for a bunch of language materials or materials in languages that we don't collect. One of the places sort of in the interim while we're waiting for things to come in that I recommend is, have you tried looking at the magazines, because there are magazines in all of the languages. One of the other options that you'll see, it's not really a lending model, but it's something called Lucky Day. And Lucky Day allows you to set a certain number of copies as high demand and not holdable. So it's just like your new books are a high demand section where like you can't put holds on it, but patron can walk in and grab it and take it off the shelf. This is basically the electronic version of that. Patrons can discover them via curated collections, direct searches, and it's your lucky day if the title is available for checkout. There does need to be at least one additional copy available either in the consortium or in your Advantage collection. For regular checkout and holds, you can't, if you only own one copy and the consortium doesn't own it, you can't designate that as Lucky Day. There have to be two copies available at a minimum, one for holds and one for Lucky Day. It's good for high demand titles, or if you have a metered access titles that are going to be expiring, or you haven't gotten all of your checkouts on and you want to highlight them, you can do that for Lucky Day. So these aren't really lending models per se, but OverDrive owns a bunch of other companies and other things nowadays. And so they call these Libby Extras. And these are things that you can add to your subscription that again would be available for your patrons. And you have them as cost per circ, you have individual subscriptions. And these are things that you can add on if you want to. So that's mostly it for lending models. We're going to talk a little bit about reports and invoices, but before we go there, does anybody have any shopping questions? How to buy things? Does everybody understand what the different models are? We're all OverDrive experts now. Okay. Well, I'm going to take that as yes.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat box, so I think we're good for the moment.
All right. Okay, so the reporting is under the insights section. So if you click where it says insights, there are a bunch of stock reports. Nick Capera is our OverDrive rep. He's doing an advanced reporting training next week, Darlene, I think. I think it's
Yes.
next week.
Yes, next week on Tuesday.
And Darlene has sent registration information for that out. So that is something that if you were in charge of getting statistics for the annual report or just you're responsible for your statistics, I would definitely suggest doing that training session with Nick. He talks a lot about pivot tables and all sorts of very fancy reports that I don't know how to do. But he is great. And if there's ever a report that you need, if your board or your director or whoever that's in charge of you is asking you for weird statistics and you have no idea how to pull them, just reach out to Nick and be like, hey, Nick, and he can tell you whether it's possible or not, because they do have access to additional reporting that's not available to us on the front end. But you see here we have insights, and then under popular reports, we have checkouts, current holds, purchase orders, title status, and usage. One fun fact is that your cost per circ does not show up in your purchase orders. It will only show up in your invoices. So if you're looking for things that you previously ordered, you can look at them through purchase orders, but your cost per circ orders will not show there. If we want to go to checkouts, you can just click on checkouts. You can set all of your different parameters. I just ran my monthly reports, so you can see I do my checkouts by format. You can set your branch. You can determine what, if you want to just see your Advantage, your users and your titles, all the users on your titles or everything. I like everything. You can set your time frames, all the different options. And then you say update. And then you get a report. And you can see that in Glen Ridge in November, we had 2,471 checkouts across all formats of our digital content with OverDrive, which is very exciting. You can also jump to a different report here. This is also where you would see your holds. So you can go to current holds. I limit mine to Glen Ridge. I say update. So this is where, because I have limited the collection to Glen Ridge, the all holds and Advantage holds are the same because it's only showing me Glen Ridge. If I had gotten rid of that, which I can do, And I don't have it limited by a branch. The all holds is the consortium number, and the advantage holds will be your individual library's number. So I'm just going to click on the little arrow and change the sort so that I can see the titles that my patrons have on hold. You can see that Intermezzo is currently my top title. You can see the holds that are suspended, how many copies the consortia owns, how many copies you own. Apparently, Glen Ridge owns more copies than the consortium, which is funny. At one point, I had 16 holds on that title. And then this is how you can just see what titles you have on hold and then make your purchasing decisions accordingly. So you can see Blue Sisters, we don't own any copies of, but there are 3 copies in the consortium. The consortium ratio is 2.36. And I have 4 holds on it. So this is how you can do your shopping based on holds. This is also where you can see your new users, unique users. If you were to have content credit, the different usage of titles. These are all available to you in your insights. If you want to know how much you have to pay for things, because OverDrive always is ready to make you spend more money, you're going to go to the billing. Oh, somebody is joining us. Okay. You're going to go to the billing tab. You can choose view invoices, your content credits, and manage your cost per search budgets from here. But we're going to go to see our invoices. And this will show you any invoices that you currently have open. You can search your invoices for a particular option. You can change this to, if you want to see all your invoices, if you want to do by the purchase order ID, the type of invoice, you have all your different options here. Generally, the default is things that you have not paid yet. Another option too is that if you have somebody at your library that only pays the bills and does not need to be able to buy things for the collection, you can set an account up for them that will be under the admin manage users. Or you can contact Nick and they will be able to update that for you as well. So for example, we have a business manager who pays our invoices. She can log in and just pull the invoices. I don't have to worry about pulling them or sending them to her. And then finally, we're going to look at the purchasing tools. So these are some of the ways that OverDrive wants to help you, and you can picture the air quotes around help, spend more money. So they have a holds manager, a metered access manager, and patron interest managers. These will be options where you can create generated carts based on certain criteria. So how many holds you have on items, if you have items, metered access titles that have expired or are expiring, or you have titles that have notify me tags on them. So previously, you patrons had something called the recommend to library option. They got rid of recommend to library and changed it to notify me tags, where a patron can add a notify me tag to a title that the system doesn't own. And then if either a consortium or their home library or somebody buys it, it's available to them, they will get notified. So that's what the notify me tag is. So that's where the patron entrance manager is. You can see what titles your patrons have interest in, if that's something that you want to purchase based off of. Smart lists are also plans to create carts based on certain criteria that you set up. So you can automate the cart creation process. The other important option here under the support tab is where you will see our friendly OverDrive staff. So Nick Capera is our account manager. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to him. He is very helpful and friendly and can direct you to the appropriate person. Alicia is our digital content librarian. She handles things like curation, and doing the automated lists. So if you have a content question, you can reach out to Alicia. Bart is the product support specialist and deals mostly with APIs and technical things. So generally, I recommend if you are not sure who to ask Nick, and he will direct you accordingly. This is also where support is great, where you have different options. They have the OverDrive Resource Center, and this is where you can access marketing materials, additional training options, and all sorts of fun stuff. So, and also your marketplace help. So if you have a question about how to do something in marketplace, you can use that as well. OverDrive is one of the few companies that I have found that their support is actually supportive. So definitely take a look there. If you can't figure it out, reach out to Nick. And that is generally our highlights. Does anybody have any questions about the lending models or some of the basic using OverDrive things that we've talked about, or things we haven't talked about that you were like, oh, I wish she was going to talk about this today?
So Tina, while people are thinking, I have a general question. So if a library is not a member of Advantage with OverDrive, what should they consider to make a decision if that's right for them?
So my main thing is I think, well, I am biased. I think everybody should be an Advantage. It is a $250 content credit is basically all you have to put up, and that's money that you get to spend. So it's not even really that you have to spend anything. You just have to say at some point in the future, I will spend $250. I think it's as we move forward in the world, e-content is more and more popular. As your patrons are using it more, I think it is important that we all contribute to the shared collection by adding content and sharing. And it also helps your patrons experience because when you add titles, they get bumped to the top of the list on those titles, and they are on both tracks at the same time. So like for my Intermezzo people, I own 3 copies of Intermezzo. At one point I had 16 copies or 16 holds on that title just from my patrons. So my patrons were able to check out my title and the consortium title. So they're able to move through the list faster. So I think it's a really great way for you to be able to support your patrons and target it specifically to what your patrons are asking for, what titles they want to be checked out, the things you have the most holds on. Particularly cost per circ is a really great way to do that.
Great. And could you just explain again the difference between Advantage and Advantage Plus?
So Advantage Plus is just what they call the sharing component of Advantage. Everybody who signs up for Advantage and Buckles is part of Advantage Plus. So functionally, there's no difference. It's just what they call the fact that when you, as an individual library or as an Advantage library, buy a copy of something, if it is cost per circ, meters access, or the 100 checkouts, that content is shared across the whole Buckles consortium.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't see any questions in the chat box. If anybody has any questions and you'd like to unmute yourself and ask the expert, Tina Marie is ready for your questions.
And if you think of anything later, feel free to email me. My contact information will be in the slides, or you can reach out to Nick as well. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, particularly if you're interested in joining Advantage. I am happy to talk to you about it. It looks a little bit different in every library because every library has different budgets, has a different makeup, has different goals. So what it looks like at Glen Ridge, it's not going to look like at Hackensack or Hoboken or Fairlawn. So don't think that it has to be a certain way. It's however your library feels the best way to use it is.
Great. And maybe I'll do my housekeeping.
Yep,
And
do your
that'll give
wrap up.
people time to think if they do have any questions. So thank you again all for taking time out of your busy day to attend. I would also like to thank Tina Marie for another great class with a lot of great information. Hopefully it gave you a good overview of what the options are in OverDrive. We will be sharing the link to the recording as well as Tina Marie's great slides. And I'll also be including an evaluation. It's anonymous. We just asked for your feedback about this event as well as what future events you'd like to see. It could be pertaining to any topic. So there's your chance to share your thoughts and what you're looking for as far as training goes. We'll also be sending you an attendance certificate so you have something for your file. So we'll give it like 2 minutes before we say class is dismissed. So again, thank you, Tina Marie. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And let's just give it another minute and then we'll wrap up. So Tina Marie, any additional words of wisdom for like the last minute or so?
Pay attention to the emails that OverDrive sends out, because they're not the best at giving you advance notice about things changing. And if they do give you advance notice, it generally means it's going to be major change. And just play around with it. Like I said, it's $250 to get in. So it's a pretty low entry. And then you get to spend that money. So it's not even like you have to really pay. You just have to commit to spending $250 at some point.
And you host quarterly user group meetings, right?
Yes. So we
What
have a quarterly OverDrive Advantage user group that basically, I basically sell it as it's a group of people who use Marketplace on the regular to complain and kvetch about OverDrive, to go over any new changes or things that have recently happened, ask each other questions. Have you seen this? What about that? And just generally have an informal discussion about our experience using OverDrive.
Right. Yeah, it's always good to talk with the people who are actively using.
Yes. Yeah, because usually somebody will be like, oh, well, I wish about that. And somebody will be like, oh, if you go here, you'll find it. And then we're all like, so it's like the tips and tricks, like with any user group. It is meant for the people that use it, who are actually using it, but it is anybody who uses Marketplace. So it doesn't matter who, what, why. If you are buying for your library, you are welcome to join our group. And we don't record, it's very informal. We do sometimes send out emails after the fact if there were questions that were asked with the answers, but it is a great group.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we are done. I don't see any questions. Thank you again, Tina Marie, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.